Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. My name is Priscilla and today I'm going to be talking about my third trimester recap and give you guys a little bit of a postpartum update. I've done two other videos on trimester recaps. I did my first and second trimester already on my channel, so I'll link those below. But today I'm excited to finally talk to you guys about how my third trimester went and give you guys an update on how I've been doing since delivering my baby boy. He was born on August 14th, 2022 at 3:23 a.m. He measured 7 pounds and 14 ounces and he was 20 inches long. Healthy and happy little boy. We had a great labor and delivery, which I'm excited to share with you guys soon and tell you guys how all of that went. But overall, mom and baby were happy and healthy. I did have a complication after I delivered, but I will talk to you guys about that later on. I basically had a postpartum hemorrhage episode, actually 3 separate days of hemorrhaging. And in the last day, I ended up getting emergency surgery and 2 units of blood. It's definitely its own story, and that's apart from the labor and delivery birth story that I want to share with you guys. I'll probably do that this week or next week with my husband, and we'll post that on our channel. Once that's already up, I'll link it in the description of this video. But today, firstly, I want to go over the third trimester and what that was like for me, and then tell you guys how I've been thereafter. So overall in my pregnancy, I feel like I was pretty happy, healthy. There wasn't anything, there were no complications. If you followed me from the last pregnancy, you would know that I developed cholestasis in the very end of the pregnancy with my daughter. So I had to end up getting induced early, and that was a whole thing. But this time around, I did not get cholestasis, and you guys, I was praying the whole pregnancy that I would not get it again. There is a chance that you can get it again. And so I'm just happy to not have had to deal with that. But something that we did have to navigate through was when this baby was gonna be born, because my husband actually had to go out of town for a work trip. It was a work conference, so we had to figure out the timing of things and see when I was gonna actually go into labor, if I needed a little bit of help getting into labor, like a membrane sweep, which I ended up getting. And anyway, I'll talk to you guys about the details of that later. But yeah, that part was a little bit difficult to navigate through, because obviously we wanted him to be here for the birth, and at least like a day or two after the baby being born, and the option to wait until he got back from the trip for me to have the baby would have put me at like 41.5 weeks, which is a little bit later than they wanted, and also with the chance that I could have gone into labor spontaneously while he was gone. So we didn't want to mess with that, so the goal was to deliver on the earlier side of things rather than later. So I made some notes on my phone so I wouldn't forget, and I broke it up in 3 different categories, so mind, body, spirit. Mind-wise, I was really happy. Like I said, I love being pregnant. There wasn't a day that I was like, oh, I just want this to end. Like, yes, I had aches and pains and things that bothered me, of course. You know, it's not the most comfortable thing when you have a giant belly and it's like pushing up on your lungs and you're peeing every 5 minutes. Those things are just, I feel like they're nice reminders that like, hey, I am pregnant. I have the blessing to be able to carry this little miracle with me, and I try not to complain too much. I know that can be hard. If you're pregnant right now, you probably know that the complaining, the whining, all of that's normal. That can come along because you're already, especially when you get to your third trimester, you're just so done with it. At times it feels like, okay, is this gonna be forever? But I really didn't feel much of that. I just know that some people feel that way, and I never really wanted to feel that way about my pregnancy. So it's definitely a mindset shift. I wanted to enjoy every moment of it, because I don't know if I'm gonna get pregnant again. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna have more kids after this, or I'm gonna be able to carry out another pregnancy. So this specific time in my life, I wanted to cherish it. So I wanted to work on spending time with my loved ones, my baby, my husband, and work on my mind, especially getting my mind to the point of visualizing labor itself, which I'll talk about that in a second. So the next thing that I wrote down was excited to meet baby, which I know that the whole time you're pregnant, you're visualizing this baby that you don't really know, like you don't know what they look like. You know that they're there because they're kicking you and you feel their little flutters and their movements, but it's not until you birth your baby that you start to, I don't know, like nurture that relationship more and bond more. The next thing I was preparing my mind for was labor and delivery. I've mentioned already that I was going to have a C-section, but I ended up having a VBAC, and which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. And this is a whole other story on its own, and I don't want to take too much time in this video, but the practice that I was in, those OBs they just stopped doing VBACs. They stopped doing it in the beginning of the year. I got pregnant at the end of the year, so they never even gave me the option. It wasn't until I got to 35 weeks that I had this conversation with my OB, and I ended up switching practices and joined a different group, and they also were going to deliver me in the same hospital. They work in the same hospital system, so it turned out to be perfect, and God was 100% behind that whole process. And I can't wait to share with you guys that story because it's really powerful how I saw God move. And I could go on and on, but I had to prepare my mind and my body to visualize and to accept the fact that, okay, I'm not going to be cut open in an OR and let these doctors deliver my baby for me. I'm actually going to labor and I'm going to push my baby out. And I was already preparing my mind and visualizing what that was going to look like, what my cervix was going to look like as it's dilating and the baby coming out. All of these things that I know it sounds graphic, but if you're going through this end part of your pregnancy, is super important that you already see yourself doing these things. The power of visualization is huge. If you want to look into that and do research about that, even my doctor said, do you believe in visualization? I said yes, and she said, okay, well, visualize your cervix, you know, thinning out and opening up. And I did these things, and honestly, like I think all of that led to my progress that I had already made when I started labor, which again I will cover in my labor video. But it does work. It's amazing to see what your body can do when your mind unlocks that potential. Your mind is a powerful tool for your body, so use that in your favor as you're preparing for the end of your pregnancy if you are in this position. Now, speaking of body, I wrote down for this category, I had more aches and pains, especially in my pelvis. I used the birthing ball starting, I think I was 36 weeks or so. I ordered one on Amazon. I can link it below for you guys. I just sent the link to my sister yesterday. She's pregnant too, so she wanted to know which one I was using. And I plan on using it postpartum too, just because I love sitting on the birthing ball. Like, even if I'm here on the computer at my desk working, it's important to keep your hips and your pelvis in motion. I did a lot of research because I didn't want to be caught off guard, and I even researched things that were going to be out of my control, like, you know, what if they had to break my water, what would that look like? What if they had to induce me, what would that look like again? And I already had an induction, but I wanted to brush up on these things because I didn't want to be in a position when I'm already in the hospital, I'm in pain, I'm going through labor, and they're talking to me about these terms and these things that I didn't know about. So I had to prepare myself in this way too. Another thing that my body was doing, was changing, is I had a lot of swelling in my hands and feet. I started swelling, I want to say like week 32 or 33. I didn't get as swollen as last time, which was nice. And I also got rid of that swelling a lot faster than in my last pregnancy. It lasted about 2 weeks with Gabby, and then with Jonah after delivering, I think it was like around day 8 or 9 that I started to see like the bones in my ankles and my feet again. So another thing is my skin stayed really clear. I didn't have any breakouts or anything. I also didn't get any stretch marks. With my last pregnancy, I did towards the very end, and after I delivered, that's when I got my stretch marks. Or most of them. And then with this pregnancy, I actually didn't get any, and this is when I was the most negligent with my skincare as far as like oils and belly butters and things like that. I would put them on, but just when I would remember, and I didn't even get that itchy now that I remember. compared to last time. But then again, I had cholestasis, and I feel like I had those symptoms even way before I got diagnosed with it. So that's probably why I was so itchy the last pregnancy and got all those stretch marks. Towards like 36 or 37 weeks, the baby's movements were more subtle. I could definitely feel him, but it was just like little taps. I started to feel a lot more pressure really early on in my 3rd trimester. And so by the end of it, I was just like, I feel like I have this baby coming out. And I would tell Johnny all the time, like, I feel like this baby's coming out right now. And they told me that this was normal, especially in the 2nd pregnancy. You feel more cervical pressure. So we talked about mind, body, and now spirit, specifically prayer. This is how I kind of got through my 3rd trimester. Like I said, I really did enjoy being pregnant, but I will say there were really stressful moments in this pregnancy towards the end, just because of the fact that I changed OB groups at 35 weeks, 35, 36 weeks. And that was a whole God story in and of itself. I had to prepare myself spiritually because I knew this was like, I felt like I was getting ready for a marathon. I mean, labor itself is like running a marathon, so you should train for it as if you are, you know, preparing for your labor. You shouldn't just like chill the whole time and then last minute be like, okay, well now I'm gonna start learning about these things and start stretching and start walking and doing exercises and things. So my prayer life and my time with God changed a little bit because I was intentionally praying for this labor and this delivery to go according to His will. But I also asked that if it was His will that this VBAC would be successful, that I would be able to birth my baby naturally and I wouldn't have to get a repeat C-section for no reason, being a normal, healthy, good candidate for a VBAC. So I am happy to say that my prayers were answered and that giving this labor and delivery and just this pregnancy in general over to God for Him to do with it as He pleases, that was what I was working towards the most when it came down to praying. And I would just be intentional and be like, God, if this is your will, please let it be. Every time I went to an appointment, I would pray before, I would pray after. And I know that I'm giving a lot of emphasis to prayer, but I am telling you, prayer is powerful. And when you are faced with opposition, when you're faced with this giant mountain that you don't think you can climb, and you just reach out to God, He will meet you there. He's never going to let you down. So if you're looking at your labor as this daunting task at hand that's coming at you like a big tidal wave, please try to change your mindset about that and embrace it and hand it over to God. Let God be the one that guides you through this process and rest in Him. Ask Him for peace, ask Him for joy. That's something that I was asking Him a lot for, that I would have peace during this time, because I mean, I didn't want this baby to be born without Johnny being here. Of course, my husband's like, he helped me make this baby, so he better be here. And I wanted that experience for him too. And then I also had to get my husband not on board, but like I had to tell him, like, I know plans changed. I know we were planning for this scheduled C-section, and that would have given us like 2 weeks to be together with this baby before you had to leave. But I don't have to have this surgery. It's not necessary for me, and I know that I can have this VBAC. So I had to tell him like the risks and the benefits. He was supportive. He was my rock, and I can say that now with confidence that if it wasn't for him and for God during this whole process, I don't know what I would have done. I know I have my family and they're super supportive and everything, but your spouse is really important and they have a special role to play in your pregnancy. And Johnny definitely just knocked it out of the park and was super sweet and supportive the whole time. And now just to close out with postpartum updates, I'm really happy. I'm doing great. After recovering from my postpartum hemorrhage fiasco, being in the hospital away from my baby for a few days, having an emergency surgery, a DNC, and also I tore when I pushed him out. So I had this 3rd-degree tear that the doctor repaired right after I gave birth. But when I got my emergency surgery, the doctor was in there and she said that my stitches had come loose, and that was part of the bleeding. So I was bleeding from my uterus and from my stitches, and that's why there was so much blood coming out. And so she did another repair, but she had to like kind of shave down the skin. I know this is so graphic, I'm sorry y'all, but she had to like kind of remove some of the skin so that it would heal back together and re-stitch everything back up. And now I'm 1 week and 2 days after that surgery, so I'm feeling a lot better, but this week has been harder than the first week when I first had him. Recovery wise down there, I am taking it easy. This is the first time actually that I'm sitting on a regular chair without a donut shaped pillow to sit on. And I'm kind of sitting on my hip because it still hurts. I can't stand for too long because it hurts. And I also can't sit for too long. So I've been doing these like lying positions and trying to breastfeed him in a more comfortable position that I can actually do for quite some time. The nights are a little bit rough at first. There will be some nights that are better than others where he'll just sleep like 3 hours in a row with no interruptions. That gives us like a time to recharge, but then he wakes up and then it's like he's cluster feeding, so it's a little bit difficult because nobody's getting sleep. Johnny's been really helpful, especially the first few days where I couldn't really get up quickly and get him, so he would bring him to me and I would nurse him in bed on my side, and then he would help me, you know, on the other side. Yes, we went through a lot and I'm like glazing over it in this video. In that video, when I talk about that, we'll get into more details. So if you're interested in watching that, that will be up at some point this week or next week. I'm not sure, but I will leave it linked down below. But every morning I get up and I do some sort of devotional Bible time with God, and I either do it from bed while I'm nursing him, or I do it once I get out of bed and I'm getting ready. I get dressed every day, I put my makeup on every day and do my hair. I feel great. I try to get outside daily. There have been a few days that I missed, especially last week when I was still recovering, but I noticed that it was really helpful for my mindset, so I will continue to do that. Yeah, and I'm actually looking forward to leaving the house now more. I went to church for the first time since that first week that I had the baby, and that was really nice because I missed going to church and I missed seeing my people, and it was really nice seeing how everybody was just praying for us, was praying for me. I just feel very grateful. I have a new chance at life. As I recover, this postpartum period is very different than when I had my daughter. If you guys don't know, I made a video and I'll link it up here. I was reacting to my postpartum video that I made just for myself, more like a video diary entry, and I was very tearful. I was very sad, very anxious. I remember feeling that time of my life, that first week or two, it lasted about 2 weeks, but that very first week was so difficult, that big adjustment to having a newborn and all of those hormonal changes. But this time around, it was so different. I was much happier. Even though I was sleep deprived, I was still okay somehow and not super tired, more calm. And I think it's just because I already know what I'm doing, and maybe just hormonally I'm more balanced. I really don't know what the reason is, but it has been a lot easier this time around. Without the whole like postpartum hemorrhage thing happening, it has been a lot easier. And even with that, I was able to keep a positive mindset, and I was able to just cling on to the Lord so heavily and depend on him with my life and ask him for another chance, and he did. And I'm just so grateful that I'm here. I'm filled with gratitude and happiness, and I'm excited. I've already started working again. Well, I work from home with my husband, so yesterday was actually my first day easing back into things. And yeah, I'm doing great, but I know that I just went through something personally really wild and traumatic. And I'm still okay. God is good. And I guess I'll end with this, but in social media, I've seen a lot of people referring to the postpartum period and memes and pictures and things like that, that it's this period of time where you're just covered in breast milk and your hair is up in a messy bun the whole time and you haven't showered and you're just so stressed out and sleep deprived. And I guess I can slightly relate to that because it doesn't always look perfect. Like, I don't always look like this 100% of the time. I do wake up with a messy bun and sometimes the baby spits up on me, and that's just part of life. But I get daily showers. I get dressed every morning, every day. I put my makeup on. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't feel like it. But usually I do, and it makes me feel better, and so I keep doing it. But I don't find myself relating to that, what social media sometimes puts out, and it's not like that for everyone. I know that that's not for everyone. I know that that's not the norm for everyone, but it's very normalized. And I get that that's, I guess in a way, it's to make people feel like it is okay if you are in your messy bun and your leggings, and it's okay if you're not like super fresh. But I'm here to say that it also doesn't have to look like that. You can also devote some time to yourself and have people around you that you love and trust that can look after your little one for a few minutes while you go and make a coffee or read a book or lay down for a nap, and do things that truly restore you and nurture you as well, so that you can pour out into others. And so I want to leave you guys with that. I am excited to get back into filming and into more of a normal schedule, but I also know I have to kind of give grace to myself as I ease back into my routine. But I'm excited to share with you guys more about my labor and delivery, about everything else that I talked about, and I will talk to you guys really soon. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't, and that's where I post more daily things on stories. And but otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.